All right. Okay, the record button has been pushed. Dear Zoom, please be nice to us. Please be nice to us. We've actually gone through this about twice. Everything is created twice, once in form, once in execution. Please, please, please. Or, excuse me, thought, then execution. All right, kids, this is universal grounding. Reminder, roaming around is dead and gone. So, brief explanation to wrap this all bad boy up. Roaming around consumed Zachary Shiloh, ladies and gentlemen out there. It was time for Zachary Shiloh to actually set his hiney down and actually get grounded. Not only grounded, but grounded by the universe. Hence the name Universal Grounding in Black Lion's Domain. And I am in love with this show's name right now. It's getting me into what we prefer to call the flow state, kids. So we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. She's cute. She's bubbly. She's got an inner child that my inner child is attracted to. She's an author, a mommy, a business owner. She's got so much going on, and we will be discussing it like there's no tomorrow. But she's actually on borrowed time, kids, so we'll try and make it work as fast as we can. All right, so welcome to Universal Grounding, Jena Hernandez. How are you, my dear?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well, especially when a certain somebody is actually wanting to talk about you. That's not my inner child. Hi, Linda. I know. Okay. So Linda says she's available Tuesday.
Cool.
So, yes, that's fine. And you said from 11 to 3 or after 4, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Congratulations, kids. You actually getting to hear Zachary Shiloh actually make a message. Okay. Or after 4. Yeah. Your choice, Mom. All right. So, Jenna, would you like to give the kids in the background a little bit about who you are and what you're from?
Sure. I grew up in New York City, and then I went to college in Boston, Massachusetts, and I spent a good 10 years there. And yeah, I met my husband there, and we had two kids. Um, and 7 years later, we were divorced, and I decided to escape to the country. Yeah, I live in the country in Central Virginia now, and I'm just loving it here. So that's a little bit about where I'm from. And I would say that I would say that I'm a diversity and inclusion consultant,
Ooh.
and I am a gender based violence technical expert. And I've worked with survivors for the last 10 years of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking. And yeah, I'm just like super grateful for coming on the show, having this platform. Um, just been Reiki 2 certified so that I can be a practitioner, and I'm
Ooh.
just really excited to bring that piece and create this hybrid healing for survivors. So I'm super excited to continue changing work environments, toxic work cultures, as well as working with individuals who have experienced narcissistic abuse or dating violence, or sexual assault, etc. And so, yeah, I'm super, super excited to talk about those things, and to just be on this show with you. It's amazing. I feel like we have like our own little family online. It's pretty amazing, the community that we all share at this point. It's amazing. All through the connection of Blair Hayes, our publisher. Uh,
Hi, Blair.
Hi, Blair. Yeah, it's just it's pretty incredible, just like the connection that we all have with each other. I feel like um the law of attraction is just such a powerful thing to believe in, and I do, and I think that is one of the reasons why I'm here today with you, is because like-minded people go to like-minded sources. And this community that we've found ourselves in, we're all the same. We're entrepreneurs, and we want to elevate people to be the best versions of themselves. And we want to tackle some really, really deep life issues, because everyone has them. No one is quote unquote normal. Like, what even is normal? And just embrace each other, and give opportunities for that healing to take place. And I think that the community that we share amongst our business coaches and our other entrepreneurs have been such a great source of guidance and love and acceptance that I wish everyone could be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the people who are meant to be connected, they will eventually, they will be connected. And we are all connected, and I think that that's just so like amazing, right? So yeah.
Yes, it is. Oh man, did you see the cover for They Are Magic
I
today?
did, and I loved it. I love the baby blue. I love how they incorporated the baby blue, and they still went with the gold. And it's very beautiful. I love that this book is inclusive of men. I'm all for inclusivity and belongingness, and this book will encompass that. I was an author. Obviously, that I was an author in
She is magic too, kids.
Magic too. Yeah. And that was just like a whirlwind experience. I've always wanted to be an author. I've always loved writing. I used to create short stories when I was like 9 or 10. I would like make up these like crazy stories, and they were pretty good. And throughout high school, I used to get a lot of compliments from my teachers, who would pull my work to show the rest of the classes. And for whatever reason, I never pursued English. I never pursued authorship. I never pursued any of those things. For me, it was like one of those pipe dreams that I didn't think ever would happen. And I had all these experiences essentially pent up, waiting to just come out. And I could have done speaking engagements. I could, but instead, I just so happened to come across Blair Hayes through an intuitive reader who I have been following for about a year now. And I saw Blair on her feed, and Blair was talking about something personal that she was going through. And I just like felt like I needed to message her, and I did. And it just blossomed into like this amazing collaborative working relationship. And Bear Magic 2 came out, and I was part of that collaboration, and it was just such a surreal experience. And it really just, it just like made me want to help others share their story, and not only help others share their story, but like help others heal in the process. because not everyone is ready to share their story. And I take that extremely seriously. Some people are just not ready to quote unquote out themselves, right? And, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of hurt when you go through an experience such as domestic violence or sexual assault and stalking. And, it takes a lot. It's you have to have an incredible amount of strength to survive every day in it, and you need to have an incredible amount of strength to get out of it, and you need to have even more strength to be able to share it, and be in the space where you can share your story, so that you can impact other people. And some people are just not there yet, and we need to like learn how to like respect that and not victim blame, and understand the dynamics of the situation, because I can't tell you how many times in my career as a case manager, as someone who provided supportive counseling, as someone who was providing crisis intervention, and even through the prevention education work that I've done in higher education, and in the nonprofit field, I cannot begin to tell you how many times people have questioned, why didn't she or they just leave? Right. And it's just such a huge and heavy question, that just people just don't understand the dynamics of it. And you can't possibly understand what it's like if you haven't been in that situation. And so, yeah, so I really just love breaking down those conversations, and really just putting the word out there so that people can be a little bit more empathetic to victims and survivors. And I use those two terms interchangeably. To me, they're the same thing. Victimization and survivorship are exactly the same thing. It's just how people want to identify themselves as. And yeah, and so anyway, so yeah, it was just like a completely like freakish moment where like I didn't know Blair at all. I wasn't following Blair. I had no idea who she was. When she was on Justine's post, I had no clue who she was. She just said something, and I just, I felt like responding to her because I could essentially feel whatever it was that she was going through. And I was like, I need to talk to this girl. And it just, it's crazy how friendships can form online. Like it's so crazy how you can build a community of people that you can trust, just through the computer, so yeah. And I think a lot of the groups that are out there, they're a platform for people to share what they're going through and share their despair. Like I'm in a lot of different groups on Facebook and on Instagram, and I see a lot of wallowing, and sometimes people need that, right? Like they need a space to just vent, and I'm truly like looking forward to having a group where we take action. And I think that that's what my diversity and inclusion group on Facebook is all about, is taking action and understanding, the laws, and, the systemic racism that happens within our work cultures, the toxic work behaviors, toxic work cultures, all of those things are so incredibly important to understand, and in order to tackle those problems, right? Like you have to know what the root cause of it, and a lot of it is toxicity, a lot of it is power and control. That's where a lot of this stems from, is power and control. And those are the foundations of a domestic violence relationship. Is, in relationships, you're always kind of figuring out how to balance each other's power, and who has the most control, et cetera. And when that gets really toxic, and when one person is using that control and power over another, that is what domestic violence is. And it can be it can be carried out through so many different ways: verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, right? Like there's so many different ways, financial abuse, economic abuse, like so many different ways that someone can have power and control over another human being. And, you know, essentially we're like stripping that other person's rights and that other person's love and heart and money and humanity, essentially. And it's wrong. And you see a lot of that in toxic work cultures as much as you do in homes. And so, you know, what I would say to, you know, people out there who think they might be a victim, I would say that you're most definitely not alone. Unfortunately, statistics of domestic violence are vast. You know, 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 7 men, in transgender and LGBTQ plus relationships, or even higher statistics, because of those gender roles not being, quote, the norm, right? And so like there's just so it's everywhere, right? It's toxicity is everywhere. And the world needs to start healing that. The world needs to start looking at, you know, each individual's as introspective as possible. Like individuals need to be introspective as possible and do their inner child work, do, you know, the healing, and find that place of groundingness, find that place of spirituality, and, you know, shake the ego off, and, you know, commit to being a better person. I still feel like people are good even after all the experiences that I've been through. I still choose love every day, because I feel like people are naturally good, but just some people have, you know, have gotten lost along the way. And one of the things that I target in my business is generational trauma. I find it completely fascinating, because a lot of people, you know, they'll internally say that they're a victim, but they don't know why. They don't know why that's happening to them. And I think education is a form of medicine to me. You know, like I love to understand the social constructs that create a person, right? Like what did this person go through? What were their socioeconomic, what was their socioeconomic status? Were they from a divorced family? Were they poor? Were they rich? You know, what did they experience? Because our experiences play a role in how we act towards others and how we feel internally about ourselves. And yeah, it's really it's a powerful transformation, is so powerful when it's introspected, right? Like placing blame is okay because blame can be placed. However, when you do the inner child work and you do the spirituality work on yourself, you have control of your life and your situations, and you have the power to change it. And a lot of people who are victims and survivors of these crimes, because that's what they are, they're crimes, that gets lost. You know, their voices get lost, they're not heard, and it can be it can be like, it can be very destructive, and some people can even internalize that destruction, and then it can lead to things like substance abuse addiction, suicide, you know, not being so great of a parent, right? Like they can continue the cycle of abuse and use that cycle against their children, against their pets, against their loved ones. So at some point, we have to just say, stop the shit. Sorry, I don't know if we can curse here, but.
Hold on a second, kids. Reminder, ladies and gentlemen. Reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that if you are a guest of roaming around, and not roaming around, excuse me, universal grounding.
Universal grounding.
Thank you, my dear. I actually have to get used to this. Pardon me. Mm-hmm. All right, so anybody asking about the language on this show? It is the uncensored zone. So go ahead, blast away.
Yeah, people need to stop the shit. you know, we all have to do, I mean, everyone has an inner child. There's not one person that doesn't, right? And so I would say in the last 2 years, I have explored this entirely new world of what that is, what spirituality even is. I mean, like, listen, I grew up Catholic, and my grandfather used to take me to church all the time, and it never sat well with me ever. And I questioned faith a lot. I questioned God a lot. I questioned if there was even a God, because the things that I was going through when I was at such a young age, I was like, how could this be? Or if there is a God, then God must hate me, because I'm getting I'm getting like the shit end of the stick. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? And abuse, I survived a pretty interesting childhood in terms of when it came to discipline. I think my grandparents, my grandmother especially, she was a native in Puerto Rico, and she was this wonderful person, and like my confidant and like my best friend. But it didn't stop her from, taking a belt out, or shoes, or wooden spoons, you know what I mean, to discipline me. And back then, I think, when she raised me, that was the way of the world. Like, that is how you discipline your children. And again, that generational trauma, right? Like, that ended up spilling into my mother's generation, who unfortunately eventually married someone who felt the same way. That, this is how you discipline children, is, you scare the crap out of them, you hit them, you verbally abuse them, you scare them to the point where they're, sleeping, with knives under their pillows. And that was my life, and it was scary, man. Like, social services would come to my house, and they would walk away because of who my stepfather was. He was in law enforcement, and so it was like, well, my parents aren't protecting me, my grandparents aren't protecting me, my aunts, uncles, they all feel the same way. Now I've got the system not protecting me, right? So it's like, what the hell is going on? Like, how am I going to get out of this? And I gotta say, man, like, I am proud of myself. Like, I can feel good about saying that I survived it, and that I'm not a typical statistic of someone who has a high ACE score. Because, my ACE score is so incredibly high, that, I probably should be either in jail or dead at this point. From the stuff that I went through, the sexual abuse when I was younger, as well, from a family member. And that in and of itself broke me too, and so I didn't really have a safe space when I was a kid. And I got to tell you that, the experiences that I went through when I was a child, and growing up as a child, and the things that I witnessed, that didn't even necessarily like impact me personally. It impacted me personally just because I was witnessing it. We take a lot of those things for granted, and we take light of those things, of what children see or what children hear or things like that. And we internalize it. We most definitely internalize it, and it becomes part of our lived experience when we're here on this earth, and we do what we wish with it, because we don't know what to do with it other than to just act it out. And so that victimization was instilled in me at a very, very early age, and it didn't get better. And it truly crippled me going forward, because, when I did have the opportunity to leave the household and move out of there, my ticket out in my mind was education. And gratefully, I had a mother who understood that I needed to get out of there too. Now, granted, she didn't protect me, but she understood that if I stayed, it wouldn't be good for anybody. And so thankfully and gratefully, she did help me leave. And, you know, but a lot of it was me. I had to do the hard work. I was working 3 jobs. I was 18. I had a very weird first few years of college experience. You know, a lot of kids who went to community college, they lived at home. You know, they saved money, they lived at home, they didn't live in dorms, things like that. That wasn't my experience. I moved an hour and a half away from home. I had my own little studio apartment. I worked 3 jobs to support myself. I had a beat up car, and I went to school at night. And this is from someone who completely like failed in high school. I mean, like I was like probably like a C- student. Probably got like 660 on my SATs, which was like terrible at that time. I think I probably even showed up like super hungover too. If I
Oh
remember
wow.
correctly. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, what goes on in your house every day affects you. Okay. It affects everything. It affects your self-esteem. It affects your academic performance. It affects how you are at work. It affects your mental well-being. It affects your physical well-being. I mean, abuse can take over your entire body and mind. And that was just like proof of it, you know, how I was performing in school, what I chose to do outside of school, you know, drugs, drinking, hanging out with people I shouldn't be hanging out with. I was hanging out with people that were, you know, 6 to like 10 years older than I was when I was like 14. Like, who does that, right? Like, I grew up fast. I grew up so fast. Like my kids are right now 9 and 6, and I was nothing like them when I was 9 and 6. Like, I could take on the world when I was 9 years old. That's how I felt anyway, because I was like, I've been through most of it, so might as well just keep on pushing, you know. But I can say that, you know, I'm super proud of myself where I am now, because I killed it. You know, I knew that that was my opportunity. I knew that that was my shot, and I didn't let that shot go to waste. And I killed it. I graduated community college with a 4.0. And even though I was in a seriously horrible domestic violence relationship, which I wrote about in She Is Magic too. And even though I didn't have the support around me, because again, I was isolated. You know, I didn't have RAs. There were no RAs around me. There were certainly no adults around me that I knew that would, you know, empathize or help me. Yeah, and it even, you know, it spilled in. I mean, those 2 years, I mean, the dude like moved in with me like right away. Like, he just like moved in with me right away. Which is a bad sign, by the way, when you just move in with someone within like a day of knowing them. It's probably not a great idea. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was tough to experience at that time. And you know, I was most definitely, once again, a statistic, but I overcame it. And it was hard. You know, it was definitely hard. I remember standing, like, I was taking American Sign Language interpreting classes, and I'll never forget the one experience that I had. I had to do a presentation in ASL, and I stood up in front of the class, and like, listen, like, I'm a pretty confident person, but when I stood up in front of that class at that time, my hands, my fingers, my whole body really was just trembling so bad that I don't even know how anyone in the class and the teacher was able to understand what the hell I was saying. Like, I mean, I had such anxiety um, and such depression that I couldn't even sign. And I've been signing at such a very young age. And the fact that I couldn't, it's almost like when someone stutters. Imagine someone like just da, 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 right? Like, just stuttering with your hands, basically. And it wasn't because I didn't know the language. It wasn't because I was nervous about the presentation. It wasn't because I had stage fright. It was none of that. It was because I was drowning. I was freaking drowning inside because of what was happening at home. And thankfully, that teacher pulled me aside and had a conversation with me. And it was the first time that I ever told anyone that I was living with an abuser. That he was, marking me and bruising me and verbally abusing me and all these different things. Thankfully she gave me a break, and she let me retest with just her. And she allowed me to keep my GPA up. And because of that teacher, it gave me a little bit more confidence that I wasn't alone in this specific situation. And I graduated with like a 4.0 in community college after going through all of that, going to night school and working 3 jobs. And I thought that that was it for me, because, I didn't have like a role model. Like, no one told me that you're going to go places. Like, no one ever told me that. You know what I mean? No one ever told me that I was smart. No one ever told me that I was going places. No one ever told me that college was my life, was my answer. When I graduated high school, I for sure thought that I was just going to work and pretty much like be, poor all my life, and just work these retail jobs. And I accepted that for myself. I just totally accepted it. The only thing that was on my mind at the time was I need to get the hell out of my house. That's all I cared about, was I needed to get out of this environment. I didn't care what my future looked like. I just knew I needed to do that at least. So I didn't really have a plan. I really didn't. I never intended to go to school. It was just like a fluke that happened. And it was a fluke when I got into Northeastern University too. It was a complete fluke. Me and one of my friends, we were just hanging out one day, and we were just talking about, like, we're gonna, the 2 years is up, what are we gonna do? And she wanted to be a professional dancer, and she's like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know, work at Macy's. So that's where I was working, work at Macy's, work at Starbucks. And she was like, well, let's just look up like American Sign Language interpreting schools, and there's like 2 in the country, 3 actually, but one of them was a community college. And she found Northeastern University, and I can't even tell you, I didn't even know where Boston was. I never even left New York, besides going to Virginia and family road trips and things like that. I didn't know where Boston was, and I never even imagined what it would be like to go away to school and do the whole like dorm thing and living with like random people and being on a big campus. Like, none of that ever crossed my mind, because I didn't grow up with that dream. I didn't grow up with parents who went to school and had an education, all that stuff. That just wasn't in my cards. She found it for me, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. She's like, yeah, maybe apply. And I'm like, and the thing is, I didn't even research the school, didn't even research it. And I promise you that if I had, I probably wouldn't have applied, because I would have psyched myself out, and I would have told myself that there's no way in hell that I'd be able to get into such a prestigious school. Because just 2 years ago, I was a C- student. I bombed my SATs. Like, there's just no way that I could get into such a prestigious school. And besides, like, the school was like $50,000 or $40,000 a year at that point. And I had no idea. I didn't know any of this, because I was like, just going through the motions. Like, I had no clue. Like, I had no academic advisor, no financial advisor. Like, I didn't have someone, editing my essays and things like that, to apply. Like, none of that. I didn't have any support whatsoever. I paid my own entrance fee to get in, my own application fee to get in. I knew nothing. I never spoke to one academic advisor or nothing. And I just did what they asked. I gave them everything that they wanted, all of the essays and the grades and everything else. And I was like, whatever happens, happens. And, I promise you that if more people didn't give too much thought into things, they wouldn't be psyching themselves out as much. There's just so much in this world out there that it's like, oh, I can't, right? Like, there's like, oh, but this, oh, but this, oh, but what about this? And you know what? If it's something that's meant for you, it'll happen. And that's exactly what happened. It happened. And I ended up going to Northeastern University. And that's when the domestic violence relationship ended at that point. And you could read that in She Is Magic too, exactly what happened. It wasn't pretty. It was a little scary when I was going through it, but you know, it happened. And so yeah, I mean, that kind of like brings me to like that point in my life where I was just, you know, working and studying, and I ended up getting like a work study position at the college, and it was a educational trainer. And I was like, I have no idea what this is, but I'm just going to apply to it. And I did. And I met with the woman there, and she, for some reason, saw something in me, and she gave me the job. And I knew nothing about domestic violence. I knew nothing about sexual assault or about the dynamics. And it was so, it was just like such an aha moment for me when I started learning that there's like literally a system. It's almost like they give people textbooks, but they don't. But it's like they kind of do almost, because it's like it's any person, any survivor that I've ever spoken to has a very similar story. And the degrees of hatred and the degrees of abuse are varied, but it's very much the same. It all comes back to the power and control. And using that against another person. And so it was just such an aha moment for me. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. I want to prevent this from happening. I want to eradicate this. And yeah, it's been my life's mission, really. I mean, I've worked with people with disabilities who are experiencing gender-based violence. I worked in colleges, worked with college students as well. Like, they're near and dear to my heart. I love working with young students. And yeah, and I love having the conversations about what people go through at work, you know, and how, you know, employers, unfortunately, like, they don't even see that they're the problem. They never do. Or that they could be the solution to helping someone survive such a traumatic experience that they're living day in and day out. And so, yeah, I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, I mean, I think that really truly like sums up essentially like who I am and what I'm about.
You didn't ramble on, sweetheart. I will actually take a little bit of pressure off you right now.
Yeah.
I will take a little bit of pressure off you. I'll expose myself a little bit. All right, kids, for those of you that are familiars with me, I did this universal grounding, or at the time, roaming around with my dear first fiance named Mel Mel. Towards the end, I said something along the lines of this. My name is Zachary Shiloh, and I am a liver of past lives. Well, I'm bringing that line back, but here's the difference to that point. My name is Zachary Shiloh. I'm a liver of past lives. I was a female in one life called Julia Sophia. I was a rape victim. I actually did have a child out of rape. Not only that, I was a lesbian. I was abused for being a lesbian. I couldn't be who I was happily until my true life's partner came into the picture at that point. So I know what it's like to really be in domestic relationships that don't go quite so well. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy. It's enlightening. Um, there's actually a show on Netflix right now. I can't think of the title of it. I don't know if you know what I'm about to say. But it talks about past lives. It talks about past lives. It talks about um, like mediumship. And yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting show. I've only watched it 2 or 3 times, but what you're saying is just so truthful, you know, and it's just brave, you know, it's a brave thing to share, that you had a past life and you are a believer in that, and that is your truth, and of who you were in your past life, and how those, and how that, and the fact that you're conscious of it is incredible. Because not a lot of people are conscious about their past lives. And so the fact that you're conscious about it, is really, it's fascinating. And it's just very brave that you, are using this platform to share about it and to share who you are, especially, you know, even if that's not your lived experience today, you know, the fact that you're stating that you, were a victim of rape and a survivor of of abuse, you know, it literally is the same exact feeling, right? It's like, you know what that feels like, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't, there's just no discrediting it. There's no discounting it. And so I thank you so much for adding that, to the show. Um, you know, yeah. I mean, especially for a man to do it, you know, the gender norms kind of kill me, you know, what a man is supposed to be like and who they're supposed to be and what women are supposed to be. Um, you know, that's all social construct bullshit, basically. You know, that's where toxic masculinity comes from, right? And feminism and like all these different things. If everyone just kind of like focused on just being good people, that would be great. Um, you know, because we're all human. We're all here on this earth, living life, right? But there's, you know, there's other dimensions to our world. You know, like we're living in like the third dimension, but there's like fourth and fifth ones, right? So like it's just like there's just so many other dimensions that we could reach if we had this level of consciousness like you have, or like, you know, maybe like my Reiki master has, or something like that. Like there's just so many different levels of consciousness. And, you know, it wasn't like I had like literally, like, this is so incredibly new for me. Like I was saying, like the last 2 years, I had no idea about any of this. Like if you told me that 2 years ago, I would probably be like, huh? Like I was just one of those people who was just like so self-absorbed into like what was right in front of me, what was real, what was the truth, what is the truth is right in front of me. I had no idea about inner child work. I had no idea of somatics and trauma and like how those things play together. I had no idea about Reiki and about cord cutting and gratitude work and I mean Gabby Bernstein, like who is that? Like there was just, you know,
Mm.
so many things, that I have just learned in the last 2 years about myself and about my work and about the people that I've worked with in the past. And I just wish so badly that I had that knowledge and the faith and the will to be able to use the things that I know now, um, to open up other people's minds and hearts, you know. Because it's just, it's so incredibly powerful when you go, when you accept that this is just a little piece of it. Like our living experience is just this tiny piece of who we are. You know, we're put on this earth, you know, for some sort of purpose, some sort of soul's purpose. But sometimes, you know, your purpose is just to be, right? It's to just live life and experience life in this body, in this lifetime. Um, and I think the Disney movie Soul, by the way, which I just watched with my children, was a great movie at explaining that people just, we have this tendency of creating these titles and being so wrapped up into the social construct of a career. You know, like what is a career? They allow the word career define who they are. And in that Disney movie Soul, you know, this soul was just so incredibly like stuck on that. Like they were just so stuck. They just wanted to be this like one thing so badly for their entire lives that they missed so much of their life because they were just so focused on what they wanted to do and what they wanted to be when they grew up, instead of just being and living and being aware and being conscious and experiencing other people and using their heart, their soul to impact other people on this planet, other people on this earth. They're missing vital connections with people. And it's just really sad. It's really sad sometimes when you sit back and look at just how disconnected we are. You know, I praise the internet for bringing all of us together, for bringing this group, this community together. But I look at my kids and I'm a little scared about their future because they just seem so disconnected from other people because of the internet, because of the tablets, because of the video games and all that stuff. It's like we've got this,
Mm-hmm.
we've got this huge big backyard. Like go outside with the dog and play. You know what I mean? Like that's why I got this dog. Like I am fostering a dog because I couldn't bear like watching them anymore. Just
Hi, Molly.
yeah. She ran out of the house today. That was fun. She literally snuck around me and flew. Like she just jet. And we're not in a fenced backyard at all. And I had
Uh-oh.
no idea if this dog was ever going to come back, if I was going to see this dog. But we just got her yesterday. And she is truly a sweetheart. But you know, with fosters, you just never know. And I've never fostered before. I've never fostered any pet before, and it's been an awesome experience. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh man, that is quite a ride for you.
Yeah.
And I remember Blair putting it out one day, like, how do you want to be known in this book? You gave her your full name, and that kind of inspired me a little bit. So, kids, get ready to be amazed right now because I have something to get off my chest. All right. So, you've known me by the name of Zachary Shiloh. Shiloh is not my last name. I prefer it to be my last name because of privacy issues in this world that we live in, especially with internet trackers and trollers and identity theft. I didn't want my last name to be used in a bad way, for my family to have their own identities exposed and lost. So I made a conscious decision to go with my middle name as my last name when I'm online. But because of our dear Blair and that presence about her, I felt a sense of calm. I felt that I could trust her with my full name. So, for anybody that's listening and has been a listener for a long time, and you knew me before uh, this all became together, now you know that my middle name is my last name, but my true name, ladies and gentlemen, is Zachary Shiloh Watts. I will be known as that in They Are Magic. But you can still call me Zachary Shiloh, babes. I prefer that.
Yeah, I call you Shiloh, to be honest with you. Every time I talk about you, I'm like, oh, Shiloh. Like I just like use one of your names. I'm just like, I really like Shiloh. Like I dig the Shiloh. So I'm like, oh, Shiloh.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
like the
blushing
Shiloh.
right now. I'm blushing right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, it's cool. Yeah. I like it. I like Shiloh. I think that's such a good like stage name for you, or just for anyone really. It's just like a cool name. Like it's like so original and like you just don't hear it very often.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and I'll explain how the shadow bit came into play. All right, so I've exposed myself. My full name, again, ladies and gentlemen, is Zachary Shiloh Watts. So I was known for my full name for an X amount of years. And one day I did a search on my first and last name. And like many other people in the world, like for example, there's plenty of Michael Jacksons and there's only one Michael Joseph Jackson. I found out that there was other Zachary Watsons. I said, "Oh no, oh no, my name's not original at all. This is not original at all." And then all of a sudden, I came up with it. I said, "Oh, but there's only one Zachary Shiloh. There's only one Zachary Shiloh. That's me." And lo and behold, I was. And I said, "Yes, that's gonna stick." And plus, people were telling me they like my middle name anyway, so why not use it as a pseudo last name or a better last name? Can't get any better than that, kids. Seriously. Oh man, oh man. And I've been blessed to actually
That's
have this for like how many years now? It's gotta be like maybe 3 to 4. Either which way. I love it. And I'm not trading Zachary Shiloh for anything. Nothing at all. I'm living in my true power, kids. I encourage you to do the same.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that story.
Uh, so Blair, I know you're listening, hon. Uh, my name in They Are Magic again, dear, is Zachary Shiloh Watts. I'm owning that name
Yes, I
as,
love it. Own it.
as an author for you.
I love
But kids online, I prefer Zachary Shiloh. Don't call me Mr. Watts. That's my father. Zachary Shiloh is who I am.
that's awesome.
Bottom line.
I love that.
All right. Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so glad that
You're
like
making
you're
me
owning
blush.
your name. Honestly, I think that's like really important because I think I felt honestly I felt very similar to you when I was doing my website. Like I didn't know what to call my website. I didn't know what to I wasn't sure necessarily the direction that I wanted to go to with my business. And I think that, all of these things that like we're experiencing as like, entrepreneurs, it's like, what do you do? Right. And it's like the best way to describe yourself is through your name. Like your name and your reputation is what you have to work with. And, um, people will get to know you and your name anyway. So why not own it? So I love that, that you guys had that conversation and that you took her advice for that because I too, like I was very close of publishing of, publishing this book as an anonymous writer because I wasn't sure if I was ready to link my name to my stories, to link my name to my lived experiences in this lifetime. I was really, I can talk about my stories to anybody, but when you have it in print, that book can reach anybody, just like this podcast can. This podcast can reach anybody's ears, and that book is just the same. It can reach anyone's ears, or eyes, I should say, anyone's eyes. And so it was, it was a little difficult for me to let go of that control and just be like, you know what? This is my truth. This is my lived experience. And this story is going to help people who can relate to these stories. And so that's why in They Are Magic, I'm going to be sharing a story about narcissistic abuse, which was far beyond it's just hard to write about, just to be able to take narcissistic abuse and truly break that down and how I overcame that and how I healed from that. I still don't really know how I'm going to do it. I'm in second edits right now. And it's really tough. It's really tough to be able to display such like a horrible, horrible event. And again, putting my name attached to it, it's like, there's no hiding from it. There's no hiding from the truth. There's no hiding from that lived experience. The only thing you can do is have faith in that this story is going to prevent other victims from experiencing that type of abuse, experiencing that type of sorrow, that type of hurt. That's why we write, right? Like we write to release and to share, and hopefully to impact the people who pick it up and want to read it. And so I feel you on that. I feel you on the name thing so much. 'Cause I truly had trouble with that too. It's like, well, what if they find me? What if these abusers find me? What if they, or, you know, what if an employer finds out? What are they going to think of me if an employer reads this? You know what I mean? Like if I ever wanted to go back into the workforce, you know, what are they gonna say? And it even took me a lot of courage to put the published book on my resume and on my LinkedIn account, because even as, I mean, I was super proud of the book. I was super proud of my work. I was super proud of that, you know, all the proceeds, you know, were donated to St. Jude's. I loved everything about the process and about doing it. But a part of me was a little frightened that I am maybe putting a little bit too much of myself out there. But the point is that, you know, the right people are going to pick up that book. The right people are going to buy our book, They Are Magic. The right people bought the previous books, and it's going to get into the hands of people who truly need it, who truly need to feel that magic, and who need that inspiration. And the clients that I'm going to be working with in the future, to heal some of this inner child things, right? Like I love the fact that I'm a light worker now, and that I have the ability to use the light worker piece of me with the Reiki. You know, having been certified as like Reiki 2, and then also taking my professional knowledge and all of the conferences that I went to, you know, the sexual assault conferences and all of the domestic violence trainings and the rape crisis work, and, you know, all of these very professional experiences that I've had up to this point, and bridge the spirituality piece and the professional experience piece together and create a program for people, that they can not only be heard and that they can vent and be heard, but that they can truly start to begin to heal and take action and make their lives what they want it to be. Because it's never, ever, 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 ever too late. You can be 18 years old like I was, or you can be, you know, 60, doesn't matter. 70, doesn't matter. At any point, one decision can change your entire life. And some people, you know, just truly need that support to be able to make that change. And that's what I'm here for. That's what I do best. Like I make shit happen. Any of my clients, up to this far, like would literally say, like, if you ask them what is like one of Jena's like super strengths, is that I make shit happen. I'm just a killer case manager. Like I just know how to put things together. I'm totally like clear cognizant. Like I know, I have this knowing in me that I just know how to solve problems. And solving problems is a great piece to have, but you can also lose that empathy, right? Like you can also lose like the empathy and all of the task-oriented objectives that you have planned for today. And you can kind of lose, you know, yourself in the work of getting this person out of a serious, you know, situation. And I've learned that that's not what it's all about. It's not just getting that person to leave. It's beyond that. It's getting that person to leave, and it's getting that person to understand where that trauma came from and how to prevent that trauma from continuing in future generations. It's to cut that generational cord. It's to say, this ends with me and I deserve better. And I'm not going to allow the patterns of my inner child continue, right? Like that trauma is just a repetitive trauma, and it looks very different in many different situations, many different circumstances. And it truly is up to us, and we have to be able to feel empowered to say, my life is going to be different. And it's very difficult because I know people have kids, people have their finances wrapped up, people have living situations, right? Especially now it's COVID. So it's like, what, you know, domestic violence has risen exponentially because of COVID, because people are literally so stuck and they just can't get out. But they can. And it's really just truly being empowered to do so. So I really just, I know how to take the tactical things and put those together, like all the pieces of those puzzles. Like I get that part so much so. But now with the work, the ego work, the shadow work, the inner child work, all of those things, all of these terms were so new to me 2 years ago. And I practiced Reiki for about 9 months myself with a Reiki master. And I just said to myself, I said, you know, this is truly the only thing that has woken me up from this generational trauma. This is the only thing that has put me in a position to look inward instead of outward. And that's very different than saying that victims need to stop calling themselves victims. Like victimization is a crime in and of itself. That's not what I'm saying. And I think whoever has an opinion is just severely mistaken. Regardless, I'm always going to be a victim because you know what? Those things happen to me. Those things happen to me, and that is my truth. And there's no way of taking that back. There's nothing I can do about that. I am a victim. I am a survivor, and I own that part of me. I own that piece of me. But what I also own is my future. And I own what happens from today going forward, even if we continue to find ourselves in the same position that we were with other abusive people or with people who are not the best fit for each other. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. And while that choice may never be super, super clear, at any point in your life, when you feel that instinct, that intuition that I've always ignored, like, oh my gosh, Zachary, I've always ignored my intuition. I didn't even know, like, I felt it, you know, I knew it was there. I felt it, but I just completely ignored it. I thought that it was more of a feeling that should be felt versus something that I should act upon and something that I should know what it is that I'm feeling and why it is that I'm feeling this way. And that if I'm feeling this way, then I might need to do something about it, whether that's to exit, whether that's to shut up, whether that, you know, like my fight or flight response was totally like all over the place. Cause like I was so used to fighting. I was so used to fighting. I was so used to flighting. I was used to both of them because of the lived experiences that I've been through. And so yeah, I mean, like, it's just, everyone has a choice. And I believe that, you know, it's our responsibility to heal our planet. And we do that by healing the survivors, by healing the victims, by doing shadow work, by doing the inner child work. But then also on the prevention end of it, you know, we need more prevention ambassadors. Like we need more people to do the work too. Like we need people who have abusive tendencies or who have power and control issues to take a step back away from their ego and say, okay, maybe I need to shift my perspective. Maybe just own that, you know, because listen, we're not born on earth like as healthy, like the healthiest people in the world. We were socially constructed to be this way. And there's just so much shame in like being an abuser as well, just as much as there is being a victim. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt. And you know, the difference is that one is empathic and the other one isn't quite much so, but one is willing to work on themselves, the other may not be. And, you know, it's those people who are constantly, consistently fighting with their ego and just walking around with so much fear. And I say fear because I think a lot of people like me hear the word ego and they hear pride. And I've learned that ego comes in many forms. Pride might be one of them, but ego truly is fear. Um, and when you get that word change, and you start using the word ego and replace it with the word fear, that's truly where abusers are operating from. They're operating from fear-based, right? Their fear is taking over them because they are so afraid to lose the power. They're afraid to lose that control because they don't know what will happen if they do. And it might be like, maybe it's because they were never in control of their lives before. Maybe it's because they witnessed dad doing it to mom or mom doing it to dad. Maybe because something didn't go right in their world at some point, and the way that they're able to keep everything together is by controlling and by having power over someone else. Whatever the reason is, the point is to understand what that reason is, accept it, and do that work around that. Because it's okay. It's okay to say, I've made mistakes. I mean, I totally made mistakes. I'm a survivor, but that doesn't mean that I'm the healthiest person on the planet either, right? I think we all have a collective work to do. Like, we all need to understand ourselves so much better than we do. But when you release that control and say, you know what, like, I'm not perfect and I have work to do on myself, that is like the first step, right? And like, they kind of teach you that in like the 12-step program when you're in like AA. And I only know that because I had a parent figure who's a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And so I used to go to AA meetings with him at a very, very early age. And so like, I know the serenity prayer and like all these different things. And that's one of the things that they teach you, is just like to let go and let faith and let God, and accept that you cannot, you cannot change everything. Right. And so, but you can change yourself. You have a choice. And you can choose to do so differently every single day.
I agree. Oh man, the work that I put into myself the last near 2 years, and I'm gonna do another little bit of an expose right here. My title, if people do not understand me or really are confused, is called Black Lions Roar, and they are magic. So Black Lions Roar pretty much is my life's story wrapped up in 5 pages about my relationship with the internet to where I am now. And yesterday was the end point. And I repeat, Blair, and I know you're listening, my dear, I cannot go any further than that. That is the end of Black Lions Roar. Black Lions Roar 2, or whatever I'm going to call my follow up, true follow up for They Are Magic 2, begins right now. Now, until we get to the point of They Are Magic 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, Blair, please forgive me if you send me a redo. Please forgive me, hon. I'm sorry. But I cannot take Black Lions Roar past yesterday because that was the point. Yesterday's point was on, this thing that we're doing now, universal grounding. That's the fine end for me. I'm living in my truth. Now, will other people accept it? I'm praying. I'm hoping people will love and accept it completely.
Put it out
Because I
into the
know,
universe.
hmm?
We'll put it out into the universe that people will love it and accept it.
Yep. I know you like it, Blair, for what it was, but I don't know if you like it as what I sent you. We shall see. And I understand that it may not be edited by Mandy Candy this time. It may be edited by somebody else. And I will not say that person's name out of respect because they have not talked to Zachary Shiloh yet. I believe not yet, but she may. She may. We'll see. So, Black Lions Roar Kids, again, is basically my rise to fame, quote unquote, if you want to really use that terminology. I'm still in awe of my own journey, like how this thing, the internet, went from being a hobby where I was printing up stuff that kids would be printing up to being a podcaster who's lost megatons of weight and he's working alongside entrepreneurs. Like, like this is an absolute dream come true. I've said this to Blair. I've said this to other people in our little magic family. Like, how much of a big deal this is to me. I get to go to sleep every night knowing that I'm an author, that I'm working alongside the best people on the planet, in my point of view.
Yeah,
And nobody can take that away from me.
absolutely. And that's exactly why I did it, is that it was like a friend of mine asked me and they were like, should I do this? Should I write and do this project? And I was like, listen, if you do, nobody can take it away from you. Like that's what yeah, it's not going to give you a college credit. No, you're not going to make money off of it. No, I mean you could maybe potentially.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to generate income, right? But that's not the point of it, right? Like, or at least that wasn't the point of it for me. I don't want to speak for everyone else, but the point of it was for me was that wasn't the point of it, was to make money, to get a college credit for it or anything like that. It was for me, and it was for me to be part of something permanent, and that permanency nobody can take away. And that's exactly why I did it, and that's exactly why my good friend, I call Lady, I call her like 5 different names. I call her
Hi, lady.
Lady D, Sandra,
Hi,
um,
hi.
Stephanie. Yeah, I mean, listen, she would be such an amazing person to talk to, because she is just like, she's like like she literally has like 3 master's degrees. She's one of the most brilliant people that I know, and her heart is so incredibly huge. And she ended up, when I told her that, like, listen, like, no one can take this away from you. It is a permanency that will forever be there. It will be in print, and you will be a published author, and you might even be a #1 best-selling author. And she said, you know what, you're right. And she did it, and she went for it. And I'm just so happy that she did, you know what I mean? Because like, she's like kind of like, she's definitely not kind of, she's definitely like one of our people. Like
Ow.
you know, she's part of our community. So
Ow. That's great, kids. That that is what this is all about.
yeah.
Taking your dreams from little to something that means a world to you and can make a difference in this crazy world where donkeys and elephants are trying to keep the populace divisive,
Mm-hmm.
not really talking about what brings us all together.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, what as the British would say. Oy.
And that's
That's why Zachary Shiloh and his spiritual mommy, Linda, hi Linda, if you're listening,
hi Linda.
why we're gonna try and help you guys get to the flow state because we need more lovins in this world. And not only do we need more lovins, we need more independence. True independence where the people, the true people, can actually get along. And by way of doing so, I believe it, and I think I can speak for Linda, that we need more people in the flow. And when you're in the flow, you're in the know and you're on the go. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful world. And we have somebody very special that will join us. I can say it now, kids. Tuesday, when we actually are recording what's now being called Doing Business in the Flow. Dear Jena Chan over here, which translates in Japanese to Jena Love, will be joining us for our recording, our first recording. And she will be exposed to the flow eventually too, because she's got a little bit of energy in her. And I could feel it. She's got some good hidden potential. Zachary, Shiloh, feel it. Yeah, yeah. And I believe in all your potentials out there too. I'm not giving up on you kids out there too. No way. No way. We're gonna actually get you going and flowing too.
I'm like super
All
excited. I'm
right.
super excited for this doing business in the flow. I am very excited about it. Um, and yeah, I think until then, I think I'm going to see if my kids are alive. First and foremost,
Okay.
I stopped hearing. I stopped hearing noise, which to me is like there's a problem outside. So I should probably check on that because we've been talking for a little bit now. But I'm
Uh-oh. Oh.
just so excited to do the next interview with you. And I just
Oh.
want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know we tried to do this a few times, and technology is such a pain in the ass sometimes. It's such a pain in the ass, and I'm literally in awe that nothing disrupted us today, and I'm just so grateful that it didn't. But I think we had one of the best conversations out of the other times that we spoke. This was a very fruitful conversation, and I'm just so I'm just grateful that you decided to interview me and bring me on this show. And for anyone who wants to contact me, my website is www.jenamarie Hernandez. That's JenaMarieHernandez.com. See, I owned it. My website is my name, my full name.
Mm.
And this, if this podcast, strikes you, please, please do not hesitate to contact me. If you're friends with Zachary Shiloh on Facebook, you can find me on his friend list. And let's build this community up. Let's do it. Like we've met so many incredible people in the last, just in the last 2 or 3 months. That
Uh-huh.
that we should just continue to build this community stronger and bigger. For other like-minded folks out there who are just ready to take on this world in this
Oh,
experience.
Jenna Love, let me tell you before I let you go, and you actually give me two more people to be recommended.
Oh,
I got some people on the way on
wait,
universal grounding. I've spoken to them today.
nice.
I think I can announce it. I believe I can because they actually are nice and they would want me to actually be known. All right. So joining me eventually for Universal Grounding Kids will be Heather Scott from She Is Magic, who was recommended by Stephanie Mahoney yesterday. I love Heather. She's great. She's actually somebody who has a disease that causes her hair to fall out. She runs a wig business, and for every wig that she sends it off to charities, and she makes sure that little kids are taken care of. I love her, and her story made me cry. It was maybe the most touching story I've read thus far, and I'm not discounting anybody's story, especially your story, hun. No way. Uh,
It's amazing.
and you'll actually be jumping up and down for joy when I say this next person's name. One, Crystal Ann Davis, who
Nice.
is our coach, our mentor, our pal. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. That's great.
And
Keep going.
and
Keep
I'm
going.
getting the rare ones, the
Keep
rare
going.
ones.
I'm gonna text my friend Lady and see if she'd be willing to hop on with you as well. I think she'd be a great person to interview.
Ooh, and will you be able to give me two more people in private?
Maybe, maybe I will do my magic. I make shit happen, remember?
Oh,
So
yes, you do,
that's
hon.
what I do. That's what I do.
All right, kids, it is time to let Jenna Chan go. And she has been a wonderful, wonderful guest. She's already basically given me what I needed, and also no need to really ask her the $1 million question of what I can do for her because she's pretty much said it throughout this episode. Like everybody else, keep doing what I'm doing, kids, because we got work to do and we got things to bring you on the way, like doing business in the flow. So keep an eye out for that on Tuesday. All
Yes.
right, Jenna
Well,
Love,
thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone. Thank you for listening. And thank you very much, Zachary.
All
We'll
right.
talk soon.
All right. And with that, kids, we are over. Bye.